Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I will not lie to you. I took a little bit of a nap after my non-spoiler review and coverage this morning because I was kind of run down, and I was like, let's snag a couple hours. Slept a little bit more than a couple hours, which is why we're getting out a little bit later than anticipated for our spoiler content. But I got a big day, man. We got to talk about these guys. We got to go see Godzilla vs. Kong. We got Concrete Cowboy. Got just a bunch of things and moving parts going on my Friday. I was like, I need a little nap. And it may have run long, but I now feel refreshed. I feel re-energized, and I feel ready to talk spoilers about this week's episode of everybody's favorite Marvel duo on television. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat, we are getting ready to dive in spoiler-filled into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 3, Power Broker. And as I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, which, by the way, if you haven't watched the episode, don't watch my spoiler review. Go check out the non-spoiler right up there. Then watch the episode, or watch the episode, watch the non-spoiler, then come over here. However you want to do it, just watch the spoiler after you've watched the episode. But as I said in that non-spoiler, I continue to just harp on last week not giving the immediate, episode 2 was really, really good. I just wanted more. I kind of came off like I was a little upset last week. And then I watched that episode again, and I was like, damn, this show is so freaking good, man. And while I still think that I would prefer to see, Marvel take the approach of a miniseries and deliver what we expect from a miniseries more than a long-form movie if we're going to do this week-by-week episode dropping. And while I feel like you only got so many episodes, you kind of need a little bit more maybe than what we got last week, or just a combination. I feel so much like episodes 1 and 2 could have been one episode. I just feel like you need to hit more of that mini-series stride and giving you something to focus on and you have a payoff in the episode, but also driving the story forward into what hopefully is a thrilling conclusion. And if I was missing that stuff last week, despite the phenomenal content that we got, I got all of it this week. Oh man, this episode just, it did all the things that I've been looking for this show to do. I mean, I think we probably have our best stretches of Sam and Bucky doing things together or just interacting with each other. We get plenty of Daniel Brühl's Baron Zemo. Oh, he's so freaking good. We get a little Emily Van Camp showing up as Sharon Carter. We get really good action sequences sprinkled throughout the whole episode, and we get a mission. We got something that we needed to accomplish this episode, and that kind of gives us that payoff of I got to the end of this episode, I just felt so satisfied. And I think a lot of it stems from Daniel Brühl. I know that this show is, Sam and Bucky's, and Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are our leads, but one of the things that I have been dying to see is Daniel Brühl continuing his performance as Baron Zemo, because what we got from him in Civil War, I was just like, damn, man, they did more with that character than I expected them to do with it, and they took that character and utilized him in a way that I was like, is true to who that character is, but was also unique to the cinematic universe and worked really well in pushing that story and overall the main story of the Avengers that we had in those first 3 phases. As we move into Phase 4, I love that we're finally getting to see more of that. And we're starting to see more of that Baron Zemo that we didn't get. Civil War, they never refer to him as Baron Zemo. I don't think. I'm pretty sure most of the time that they're referring to him directly as Zemo. But he's the Baron Zemo here, man. And we get all of those things that we look for in that character. And we just get to watch Daniel Brühl just light it up, man. He is so calm, cool, and collected all episode long. You cannot break Baron Zemo from here. He is just, and it's at a point where you're wondering how much he's actually in control of things. This episode certainly opens up a lot of possibilities for what Zemo's role will be in the show, and what they're setting up, I'm really, really digging. But I just love watching how this guy manipulates everybody. He is a master manipulator, and even though that, our heroes know that, he is playing them like a fiddle, man. It just feels like everything that Zemo wants to happen goes down as he wants it to happen this week. And Brühl just, he looks like he is reveling in playing this role with these two guys, and I can't wait to see where they take that character. Then, of course, we also finally get some Sharon Carter this episode. Agent 13, Miss Emily Van Camp shows up, and while she's featured less so than Brühl's Zemo, what we get with her was everything that I was hoping to get with Agent 13. Like, Sharon Carter comes in, helps our guys out where she needs to help them, kind of helps them get the information to find the thing that they're looking for. And when they're off looking for that thing, she's like, "You guys go do what you gotta do. I'll hang out here. It'll be easy. I'll just watch, keep an eye on the place." And then a bunch of mercenaries show up, and they give Emily Van Camp a really badass action sequence where I was like, "Yo, is that Emily Van Camp?" Like, because of her hair, it's in her face a lot, and the movements and the choreography kind of makes it hard to get it out of her face. And just that. Growing up watching movies, knowing how you bring stunt doubles in and out, for a while I was like, is that a stunt double? And we're now at a place in cinema with people like, Keanu Reeves and Tom Cruise, where they're doing all the stuff that you watch, and it elevates the movie so much. You're kind of always just hoping, like, I know that there's always a mixture of a stunt double in here, but man, I hope it's the actor for the most part. And right as I was like I think it's the stunt double, she does like a maneuver and rolls up and finally clears the hair out of her face, and it's Emily Van Camp, and I was like, yes! It's like, let's go. Like, she's buying in, man, and getting dirty and roughing up a bunch of mercenaries. It was awesome to watch. So all those things that I was looking for last week, we get here. And the other thing that I mentioned in the non-spoiler that I really love about this show is, while, WandaVision got us to go deep cut comics because of theories and possible things, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going deep cut comics by just throwing it in our faces, man. Every single person that interacts with Sam and Bucky that has a weird name, they're all comic book characters, and the show is lit. Like, there's so many comic book characters popping up in this show where it's like, man, I just love that, Marvel knows that they can tell a story that is totally building these two characters up more and better than they were in the movies, probably setting them up to do bigger things in the MCU films. And at the same time, we're just seeing them litter the screen with all these other characters that could either be in play for them at later times or in different movies, just kind of like setting the stage of this character exists in the universe, much like Joaquin Torres. Get a lot of him that first episode, and then it's just like we hear him on the phone or see him on a quick video call, or he stops by real fast, just in and out. But we know Joaquin Torres is in the mix. He could be Falcon one day, and it's cool to see all the different characters. So much so, characters like the Smiling Tiger. You're going way deep cut to kind of pull up names and aliases of people to kind of throw in there that are more Easter eggs, but also confirms that those characters are in the world. And if we ever did one of them weird villain team-up movies, say the Suicide Squad, you're not thinking about who could be in the squad. It's, oh man, all these characters are at play. They're just all there, and I love how the show does that. And like I said, unlike WandaVision, just kind of throws it in your face more. It's like, oh, they said something, quick, look that up. Oh yeah, that is a comic book character. They're going deep cut past things that I even remember from growing up reading comics. And it's so much fun to watch that stuff, because it makes you dive back into the material if you're a comic book fan. I love that. I love that these shows are doing that. But I have talked already at length about the episode, and we haven't even cracked into anything. So those are definitely my spoiler overall thoughts on the episode. I think we get some really great stuff here, and I'm just, what they're setting up, I think the last 3 episodes of this show are gonna be wild. So let's dive in, man, to the episode, go top to bottom, and just rip the whole thing apart. And the show starts off like it does every week, giving us what happened last week, and it's important to point out that last week you had Bucky very worried. We got into his mind a little bit, and being worried, if Steve was wrong about Sam because Sam gave up the shield, maybe Steve is wrong about Bucky, and there is no redemption for him, and there is no way for him to ever be anything other than the Winter Soldier. And that's an important thing to show right up top, because inside the episode, Bucky kind of has to be Winter Soldier this episode, and it's a really interesting internal conflict, and something that he is constantly wrestling with the whole episode, and so far the whole series. And as I mentioned, Stan's facial acting is just so unbelievable. Like, every time he's on screen, you're like, oh man, like, you can just tell he is dealing with a lot of stuff internally, and is kind of having to deal and operate, as here, like, kind of like a spy. So I love seeing that, and the other thing that they set up too is that John Walker and co. Have been tracking the Flag Smashers by hitting spots where they have potentially stayed, and that's right where we open up almost. We start with a commercial for the GRC, the Global Repatriation Council. I cannot say that word. Basically, they're the people in charge of taking all of the people who came back from the blip and getting them introduced to society, whether they need social security numbers, health care, whatever you need to get back on track to where you were 5 years ago. That's what the GRC is doing. And I kind of wish we would have gotten this commercial last week just to have a better idea of what this council is about. But the other thing, too, that I dig getting this commercial up front is, it shows you all the things that they're doing for the people who have come back, but all the people who have now been displaced because of those people returning. Well, the GRC ain't necessarily helping them out as much. And just watching this commercial, it gives you a feel and a reason and a connection to the Flag Smashers. You kind of get why they're doing what they're doing, because it seems like one of these government agencies is like, oh yeah, we're gonna help you out, and like the commercial is bright and it's happy, and like you see all these people coming back and embracing and all these things that we regular people still can't do because we're under quarantine and there's a pandemic, and like you're just seeing all this happiness, and then you're getting this kind of like repetition mantra right at the end of the commercial. The tagline: reset, restore, rebuild. And all of those things are driven for the people who've come back, not for the people that were already here. And the other thing that I thought was interesting with the commercial was that, repeatability tagline, reset, restore, rebuild. Reset, restore, rebuild. Kind of feels like a mantra that could kind of subconsciously get into your brain, something that, say, Hydra would do to the Winter Soldier. And at least me, I haven't thrown out any theories so far in 3 episodes, so we're going to throw out some crazy ones today. Maybe the GRC has a Hydra tie. Maybe the GRC could lead to the U.S. agent, instead of becoming the U.S. agent, becoming maybe Hydra Captain America? There is some stuff that they're doing with John Walker that like has me feeling like by the end of this series he's going to break bad. Like, they're just giving Wyatt Russell so many things that make you not like him, that my crazy theory is that the GRC is actually hiding in plain sight again, and they're gonna end up brainwashing John Walker to be Hydra Captain America, so we don't have to see the real Steve Rogers do it. That's my crazy theory, but there was just something about the whole commercial. I just got like this Hydra vibe from it. But the commercial I thought was very, impactful in giving you an idea of what the GRC is, or at least what the GRC wants the world to think they are. Right? It's one of those things like you see a commercial that comes from any government branch or political person, and you're like, this is what you want me to see. What's really going on here? And we come out of that commercial right into John Walker doing, his thing, trying to find the Flag Smashers. He's got his boy Lamar Hoskins with him, and they are rolling with the GRC. You see the GRC police in Germany roll up to that building where we saw the Flag Smashers stay last week. And what I like about this scene, and again, just the multiple layers the show has, is, they come in, they start roughing people up a little bit, which is totally not how Cap would operate. And I'm not saying that makes, John Walker a bad guy. He's just doing things that I don't think you would see Cap do. And he goes in there and tries to interrogate this guy. And he's like, I know that you had Flag Smashers here. Where are they? What's their next move? My homeboy's like, I ain't telling you anything. So much so that I'm a spit in your face, Captain America. Another thing that I don't think would ever happen to Steve Rogers. Like, I feel like the real Cap comes across any person, no matter how antagonistic that individual may be. I don't think anybody is spitting in the face of Steve Rogers. But John Walker is not Steve Rogers, and that's the vibe that you get. Like, he spits in his face to the point where, like, Wyatt Russell, and he does this so well. Like, aside the fact that, like, he doesn't have the beard right now, and it kind of weirds me out, like, his performance has been really, really good, and we don't get a lot of John Walker this episode. So in the little bit of screen time he has, he makes sure to just take advantage of every second he's on screen. And his response of, do you know who I am? Like, the frustration of that pressure of, like, I'm Captain America, and nobody acts like I'm Captain America. Like, Captain America's best friends don't act like I'm Captain America. No, this guy doesn't act like I'm Captain America. Like, do you know who I am? And the guy is like, yeah, I do, and I don't care. And it plays right into this whole storyline of the symbol of Captain America and what it means. And what it's really doing is kind of showing you that who Captain America is matters as much as there just being a Captain America presence. Like I said, the way this guy reacts to John Walker, I don't think that's how he would react to Steve Rogers. And granted, Walker hasn't had the ability to have the mantle long enough to kind of earn his spot. But that's the thing. He kind of wants it because he's earned his spot in the military. He thinks that he deserves it. He hasn't earned the mantle of Captain America. And the world, at least through the eyes of this one individual, seem to kind of reflect that against him. And I love that about the scene. And then, you just kind of see, like, he's frustrated and, like, well, if we don't know where to go, we can't get ahead of Sam and Bucky by beating them to the punch by finding where these guys have been staying, the only thing we can do is follow Sam and Bucky. So that's what they do. So they go off, and we jump to Bucky and Sam, who are getting ready, as we saw at the end of last week, to go get Zemo. And as they're getting ready to go in, Sam is like ready to roll in, and Bucky's like, I'm gonna do this one on my own. And Sam's like, dude, like, do you not remember what this guy did last time he was around? Like, he has a way of getting to you that might not even be in your control. Like, just have me there. And, Buck is like, you're an Avenger. You know how he feels about Avengers. Like, I am not an Avenger, although I am an Avenger, but, like, I'm not an Avenger. Like, I'm a familiar face. I'm someone that, I think he will speak to. He sees you just as an Avenger in general, it might turn him off. So Sam's like, fine. And Bucky goes in, and the minute that Bucky walks into the room, we hear Zemo start reciting the words in the mantra that turns the Winter Soldier on. And immediately Bucky is like, that doesn't work. And Zemo's like, I know. I just wanted to see how you would react to the words. And it is that layering and that Zemo's doing of just slowly manipulating everybody. Like, I'm going to just feed you a little bit of something here. I'm going to feed you a little something here. I'm going to get your appetite up. I'm going to hook you in. And then I'm going to use you the way I need to use you so I can do what I got to do. And it's so much fun to watch the character do that, starting right here with this first interaction with Bucky and utilizing that manipulation and those tactics throughout the whole episode to achieve what I think ultimately he was hoping to achieve. And it's the thing I just love about that character, and the thing I love about Brühl on screen is that he's so good at doing that. And, he ends up having a back and forth with Bucky where it's like, look, Super Soldier Serum is out in the world. And Zemo's like, so you think it's Hydra. And if you're here, you're desperate. You don't have anywhere else to turn but me. Like, it just kind of gives him that, like, I'm in as much power and control as I want to be because you need me. I don't need you. Although it certainly would seem that Zemo kind of needs them to get away with some of the stuff that he pulls off this episode. But it seems like right out the gate he is put in the driver's seat just off the information that Bucky gives him and how he knows he can work these guys. So I love seeing all that. And then you cut back to Bucky talking to Sam like, okay, I got the information. So what do you think about breaking Zemo out? And Sam, like, what are you talking about breaking Zemo out? Like, we're not doing that. Like, this guy is a criminal. He's supposed to be in jail. We know what he can do, like, when he's not locked up. And, like, no, we're not doing this. And you get to a spot, man, where Bucky just, like, kind of, like, leans into the fact that, like, yo, Sam, like, you stuck your neck out and broken the law for Cap. I need you to do that for me, dude. Like, if we're friends, like, I need you to throw me a bone here because I think this is the only way that we can stop this. And Sam is anti it. So Bucky is like, look, let me just give you a hypothetical. And this is one of those, like, classic buddy cop moments where it's like one of the guys went and did something that he shouldn't have done. And now he's got to tell the other guy, like, I kind of did something. But to ease him into it, it's like, well, if I did this, how would you feel? Cool, because that's what I did. And we get to see this really fun bit of how they break Zemo out. And Bucky breaks down that, like, in this facility, 9 guards for every 1 inmate. And when 2 inmates fight each other, 4 guards are immediately sent in. So at any one time, you'd be focusing a lot of attention there. Sam's like, how do you get, like, 2 guys to just fight exactly when you want them to? It's like, there's ways. And when Bucky's walking out of the prison, he tosses, like, a little piece of paper to one of these guys, and it's all written in German, and it basically says, like, he's gonna kill you tonight, kill him first. And he grabs the dude, and they start fighting, and then the guards start coming, and Bucky keeps laying out how you would break out, Zemo. And it's like, he gave him, he slipped, like, something into the book that he's reading so that he has a key card to get out of his jail cell. Gets out of his cell. Those guys are fighting. He's like, and if those guys fight, then it escalates even more, and then everybody is just focused there. So much so that, like, someone could slip behind you without noticing, and you see him take out a guard, put on the guard's outfit, take his key card, start going through, like, other places, and he's like, and, if you also had, like, the fire alarm going off, well, then it's really possible that someone could just walk out of this place. And Sam is like, what did you do? Like, and sure enough, Zemo comes walking in, and Sam freaks out. He's like, what are you doing? You should be in jail. Like, but no, Buck. And that's where Buck, throws that line, like, you stuck your neck out for Cap before, done illegal stuff, gone to prison. I need you to do the same thing here for me. And Sam, as much as these two butt heads, and there's always friction amongst how they interact with each other, you can tell that both of these guys do care about each other, and a lot of that, I think, stems from the fact that they were both very close with Steve. And I think, like, in a way, you're not going to let the other guy kind of hang out there. And Sam's like, all right, we're going to do this. But when we're done, he goes back to prison. But, like, let's go, do some legal stuff. I like that. As they're going, like, Sam also doesn't, like, know where they are, like where they meet up after Bucky sees Zemo. He's like, where are we? And you see, like, it's Zemo's garage, and he's got, like, all these cars, and they're like, oh man, like, what are we in, like, a chop shop? Like, are we running stolen cars here? And Zemo's like, these are all mine, dude. And like a little bit later on, they're walking, I think, to the airplane that they're about to get on, and, like, Sam is like, so wait, hold up, this whole time you've been rich? And Zemo's like, well, I am a baron. And, like, prior to the Avengers showing up and everything happening in Sokovia that happened in Sokovia, like, my family was royalty. Like, I got loot, man. And what they kind of set up with Zemo in this episode is, like, the bad version of Bruce Wayne. Like, if Bruce Wayne wanted to do things that were not punch bad guys in the face dressed like a bat, you might go the route that Zemo goes, and using that money and influence to continue to influence and have power within the world, and you can just see, like, he has all the toys, like, anytime they need, we got a plane, I got a plane, we need a guy to pick us up, I got a guy to pick us up, I know all the places that we can go to. Like, he just has the setup for everything you need because he's got lots and lots of money. And then, again, really, really high intellect. Like, I was just sitting here going, man, this is like an evil Bruce Wayne, and I am about that because, as you know, Batman's my favorite character. And watching Brühl operate in this way is really, really just so enjoyable. And when you tie in the fact that I'm pretty sure he's the power broker that people keep talking about in this episode, like, my dude is using his power and his wealth to, what looks like orchestrate the criminal underworld of Madripoor. And I'm fascinated to see where that goes. And like I said, if it is him, how he been pulling all these strings from prison. And I hope that we get to dive into more of that as the show goes on. But the other thing, too, that I like is, like, as he's grabbing stuff that he needs, from, like, a couple of the cars, he grabs, like, a bag out of one, then he goes to another car, and eventually he finds his mask and grabs that. But as he's doing it, he kind of reiterates to Sam, like, look, I spent a good portion of my life hunting down Hydra folks that had stuff to do with the super serum program to snuff them out. I'm not going to let that job go unfinished. You know what I mean? Like, if there's someone out there making super soldier serum, I'm going to make sure I find that guy, and we're going to, make sure he's put him out of his misery, get rid of him, because that is what I've been doing. And that's another one of those manipulation tactics that Zemo uses in the episode to get, specifically Sam more on his side. Like, okay, maybe this guy is helping us. Maybe we can trust him enough in the fact that, like, what we need to do as an overall group together, suits what he would want as well. So maybe he's playing it straight, which, like I said, he's not. There's way more going on with Zemo, and I just love the way that they set all those stuff up. And then, like I said, you got that plane ride. We gotta go to Madripoor. He's like, there's a place that we need to start. If we're gonna do this, we gotta start with low level, thugs, basically. And there's somebody in Madripoor that I think could give us a beat on where the super soldier serum, God, I get that wrong, so where that is and who's in charge of it. And we're going to start with this person, Selby, in Madripoor. So we jump on a plane, again, those manipulation tactics as they're kind of just riding around in the plane, like, you get these moments where Zemo is clearly trying to push these guys' buttons, but then you also get these moments where he's, like, trying to win their trust. And, like, one of the first things that Zemo talks about on the plane ride is, like, being in a cell and, like, oh, man, like, how could you ever imagine what it's like, oh, that's right, Sam, you were in prison because of the Captain America. And he's like, and speaking of that, he's like, I do find, like, this pretty interesting. Like, this list, like, it makes sense, but this one name, I'm not sure, and he says, Mr. Nakashima's name, and Bucky freaks out because in the book that he's stolen Bucky's book and he puts it in there. And what I love about this in particular is, other than it just showing the things that Zemo is capable of doing, the way in which Sam reacts to it, which is, hey, I know that book. And, like, we've seen it a bunch of times, but we've only ever seen the page with the names and Bucky kind of writing in it. We haven't seen what's in that book. And Sam's like, I know that book. That's Steve's book. Steve had that when he came out of the ice. And, like, he wrote everything down as he was, like, learning all the stuff that he missed. Like, I told him Trouble Man, and he wrote that down. Steve loved Trouble Man. And, he's like, Buck, did you listen to it? Because it's obviously in that notebook. And, Bucky's like, I'm a 1940s music guy. He's like, you don't like Trouble Man? Like, Marvin Gaye? Like, Steve loved Marvin Gaye. And then Brühl, Zemo gets in on it. He's like, dude, like, Trouble Man is a sophisticated piece of art. Like, it does everything that it needs to be. Like, it totally describes the African American experience. Like, it sums it up in, like, a perfect way. And you see Sam kind of be like, you're out of line because you don't belong saying those things. But he's not wrong. You know what I mean? And that's one of those, like, he just took a dig at Sam and he took a dig at Bucky, yet has also kind of won Sam over a little bit with, like, we gotta talk, but what you're saying isn't necessarily wrong. And you kind of see this, like, kind of general kinship. Like, these three guys all have one thing in common right now and trying to stop this super soldier serum stuff. And watching them interact, it's fascinating because, like I said, Zemo is looking for ways to manipulate and pull them and get them to do what he needs. And just the things that he layers in these conversations with them. It's amazing to watch him set them up and then knock them down as they go throughout the episode. But I love that whole bit. And, I love that while they're talking about, like, the things Steve loved, and obviously Steve is a center focal point for the show, he goes, the one thing, though, after meeting Steve, is the trouble with a hero like Captain America. And, like, Sam is immediately like, you watch what you say, and he's like, no, like, someone like Steve is so good, that you kind of put him up on a pedestal and you forget about their flaws, and, like, just kind of speaking to something that's been existent through the whole show, what that mantle means, what wearing it means. And because of that mantle and putting it up here, what if these people aren't good? And it just, like, the show just keeps hitting me in the back of the head with, like, John Walker is not... There's something wrong with John Walker. And, what does he really want the mantle for? It seems like he wants the mantle for his own purpose, his own reasons, and to boost his own, fame to a degree, more than, like, wanting to be Captain America. So, like, I love that, like, as we're starting to see them kind of bond, sort of, like, reminding us, like, Zemo, he doesn't like superheroes, and he has a very specific thing that he is always looking to try to accomplish. And it was one of those moments that I loved. And the other thing, too, is that he has a butler on the plane. We were talking about evil Bruce Wayne. Like, he's got a butler who comes and serves some drinks and stuff. I was like, dude, like, he's got it all. He's just not using it for good things. Like, in another world, Baron Zemo may have been Batman. But I kind of just dig all that, and then we get to Madripoor, and in the comics, Madripoor is this fictional city that's kind of inspired by Singapore, and I love that we get this camera shot, man. The camera just coming up on the water and pulling up to a shot of Madripoor, which has a very, very familiar feel, very similar to the kind of awe that you get when you see Singapore at night, with all the lights lit up, and just the way they kind of introduced that, it really set it up in a way where it's if you didn't know anything about Madripoor, the one thing that you're going to figure out is that it's in Southeast Asia, and that it is definitely inspired in the comics by Singapore. And, they kind of give you a little bit of a background history on what Madripoor is. While they're on the plane, Bucky mentions that it was, an island that was used in the 1800s as kind of like a pirate sanctuary. But of course, in the comics, is a place where Wolverine frequented, and a lot of X-Men stories took place, and a lot of Captain America and Wolverine team-ups took place in Madripoor. So it's one of those things where, as a fan, you hear them say it, so that this is what this place is, and it still has its lawlessness. It kind of functions as its own country, and it kind of bends the rule. It has that history of being a pirate, sanctuary, so that kind of still exists. But just setting it up and putting it out there, one of those things where it's Feige just keeps hinting at X-Men and at mutants, and giving a place like Madripoor opens up the potential of oh man, could we get a Wolverine story in Madripoor? Could we get a Wolverine and Captain America story in Madripoor? The places they could go, and it's just the type of location that in the comics you just get ooh, that means things that are coming down the line that we're all waiting for. So I love, having them set it up, tell us what Madripoor is, and then seeing Madripoor from a distance. Because, Zemo brings up the fact that, oh, you've never been here, Sam? That way is Hightown. Great to visit if you're on vacation. But where we're going, not so much. Lowtown doesn't really have all the frills, it's the underbelly of Madripoor. I love the way that they're kind of laying all that out. But before we actually dive into Madripoor and we see them on, they're walking on a bridge, just in the middle of the road, to a car that picks them up and then drops them off on another bridge where they keep walking. But before all of that stuff happens, we go from the plane real quick to check on the Flag Smashers, and you see that they're delivering probably the vaccines or something to one of these displaced camps. Camps for the displaced, refugees post blip. And you see Karli, she's playing soccer with some of the kids, and then as they're doing whatever they're doing, someone kind of pulls her aside and is hey, something's going on, you might want to go up there, maybe we can do this whole thing later. She's no, you guys keep doing what you're doing, I'm gonna go upstairs. And you see her go into a room where there's a woman on a cot. Certainly looks like she's dying, and Karli kind of just gets down and holds her hand and gets kind of emotional. And the general vibe I got right out the gate with that scene is that this is another person that is connected to Karli, and closely connected, and makes you think is that her mom? Is it a family member? Is it someone maybe not related to her but kind of was a secondary mom to her? That was the vibe I got just in the interactions. Much like last week, that guy that sacrificed himself, you kind of got this vibe is that her brother? Is that her best friend? Is that a former lover? Is that someone from her past? Because how she reacted to what he did seemed very, very personal. And the way that she is reacting to this woman that's dying also feels very, very personal. And I think some of those things are driving Karli to do the things that she's doing, and are driving her to a place where we can empathize and kind of relate to what she wants to do. With these, displacement camps existing and all these people being displaced by the returned, and the GRC only helping them, we can kind of, I get what you're doing. There are a lot of people who aren't getting the things that they need because we got to focus on all these other people that have been gone for 5 years. But she's starting to go to that place where now you're crossing a line where you might not be able to come back from. And it seems like these personal things and that you're seeing happen to these people maybe are having some impact on Karli, and maybe driving her to do something that we see her do toward the end of the episode. From there, though, we jump back into Madripoor. We see the boys walking up, and I love this whole setup, man. Just walking through the streets. It's one of those things that every time I see it in a movie, whether it's just walking through the streets of Wakanda or just any place where you're somewhere and you want to get a vibe of what's going on. You see it in the Star Wars shows all the time. I mean, the amount of times the Mandalorian walks through a town, but I love that because there's all this stuff littered around them. And the thing that I dig here is as they're walking through Lowtown, like, you can tell this is where, like, the shadiest of these, pirates or villains or just people who are looking for lawlessness, the shadiest of them are hanging out in Lowtown, but it's not giving you the vibe of, like, a scary, dangerous place, although you see plenty of people with guns and, like, it would scare me. It doesn't give you, like, shady vibe. It gives you, like, there are lots of shady people, and they are completely comfortable living here, and they're about living here, and they can enjoy themselves living here, and you're seeing all these people, like, just interacting, having a good time. They all kind of look shady, some of them have guns. But, like, you get this vibe that, like, this isn't a town. Like, Lowtown isn't a place in Madripoor where, like, people are hiding and it's, like, shadowy and, like, it's still light and there's just a lot of ruffians running around just doing whatever they're doing. I mean, you're seeing people, what looks like packaging, like, massive amounts of drugs just on the street. But, like, it seems somewhat inviting, It's a really interesting combination, but one that definitely gets across, like, a very different feel than a place that doesn't feel inviting. As you walk through, we're seeing plenty of things. I'm sure there are lots of Easter eggs I missed in there. But the two things that caught my eye was the monkey head symbol. There's a purple neon sign for the bar that they're going into, which is the same symbol we've seen at the in the end credits. And it would seem, not confirmed anywhere directly, but it would seem with that monkey sign, and then there's a wall full of bronze monkey heads, that we are at the Brass Monkey Saloon, which is a frequent bar, or a bar frequented by a lot of the underbelly of Madripoor. You'll find a lot of bad people at the Brass Monkey Saloon. But one of those, again, like, locations that, like, kind of just comic book fans, you're like, oh man, like, when you're in Madripoor, you need to find out information, or something that's going on with the shadier people. Like, good spot to find those unsavory characters or individuals is the Brass Monkey Saloon. So it was, kind of cool to see that put in there without it being, like, thrown in your face. And it's, again, one of those things where, like, if you're not a comic book fan, it sucks to be you sometimes, but as a comic book fan, you're like, I'm pretty sure that's what this is. But the other piece of information that I really took away was stuff that was going on in the background, as I mentioned earlier, is up on the wall, one of the walls of the buildings across the street from what we would assume is the Brass Monkey Saloon, is a graffiti piece for the power broker. And it says the power broker is watching. And there are, like, sets of eyes. Like, it's almost like the way the words repeat, the eyes kind of repeat behind them, and those eyes look like Daniel Brühl's eyes. Like, I'm pretty sure Zemo is the power broker, and I was getting that vibe watching the episode. Like, as they kept mentioning this guy, I'm like, I wonder, like, if Zemo's got a connection to that guy. And then when I saw that the title of the episode was Power Broker, I was like, it's gotta be Zemo. And then on that rewatch, seeing that in the background, I was like, yeah, it's 100% Zemo. Which brings up a lot of questions, because this guy seems to be, the head of the underground, underbelly of Madripoor. It seems like he's the guy pulling a lot of the strings that's going on there, to the point, like, when they go into this bar and get confronted, like, one of the first things Zemo says is, like, I don't have an issue with the power broker, but I'm more than happy to go up and face him, face to face. We can have a conversation with this guy over here, the Winter Soldier. And it's, like, I'm pretty sure it's him. So has he been, doing things from prison? Does he have a communication, way to communicate with people on the outside? Like, he looks like he's in full lockdown, so I don't know how he would be doing that stuff or pulling those strings. But the other thing that's really interesting is that we find out that the power broker is the guy responsible for getting the doctor who created the super soldier serum this time around. Which makes you scratch your head, because you're like, well, Daniel Brühl doesn't like superpowered individuals, so why would he want the super soldier serum back in existence? And I don't know. I am not positive of what his overall game plan or what it is that he's trying to do, but it certainly would seem like he is the big bad that is really in control or kind of looming over whatever the storyline is ultimately going to finish up being in the show. At least that's what I took away from seeing that piece of graffiti. Like, damn. Daniel Brühl is doing things, he's two-faced, you know what I mean? Like, he's really good at presenting one thing and doing something else, and I'll be interested to see where we go and find out about the other stuff that he's doing. And then, like, before they go into the bar, when we see them walking toward Madripoor, you get Sam kind of going like, why is it that I'm the only one dressed like a pimp? And I love Zemo's response. He's like, an American would think that just a well-dressed, like slightly, like someone on the riskier side of fashion would consider themselves a pimp. Like, this is just what this guy wears, and I need you to wear this stuff because we all got to be characters tonight. Like, I need you to be this guy, Conrad Mack, a.k.a. the Smiling Tiger, who is a real comic book character, and in the comics was primarily used, in the criminal underworld. So when you find out that, like, he's a rake, makes a lot of sense that, like, oh man, you're impersonating this actual guy that exists in the criminal underworld here in the MCU, who is an actual guy in the criminal underworld of the Marvel Comics. And what's even better is, like, and the whole reason that we're having you be him is because you look like him. And Zemo shows him a picture. He's like, he really does look like me. And when you look at the picture, it is Anthony Mackie, just with, like, a full beard. Like, tight to the face, not, like, behind. And, like, when I saw the image, it made me go, I feel like that's from, like, a movie like Pain and Gain or something like that. I don't think it is, but if it is, and you figured out what movie it is, please let me know that down in the comments. But it was one of those, like, felt like they took a picture from Mackie from his real world, like, real life in the movies, and used that as the still, and you were like, he does look a lot like me. And the other thing is, if he's going to be this guy, Zemo is playing Baron Zemo, like this guy that people would know by name here. We need Bucky to be the Winter Soldier. And he's like, I need you to be the Winter Soldier because, like, you're the guy that scares everybody. Like in Madripoor, people know who the Winter Soldier is. So when the boys walk into the bar, like, immediately everybody's looking at him, man. Like, you see this one dude who's, like, bald. He's got this crazy beard. He, like, is eyeing Zemo hard, but they kind of just move right to the bar. They get to the bar, and the bartender recognizes Sam as the Smiling Tiger. And, as they're trying to get drinks or whatever, he looks at him, he's like, you want the usual? And Sam is just playing along. He's not going to open his mouth because he doesn't know what this guy sounds like. So he's just like, and you see this guy go to get drinks, and it looks like he's setting up whiskey shots, and then he grabs a snake. And the minute he grabbed the snake, I was like, oh, nah, man. Like, this is like, like some of that, like, Indiana Jones stuff where it's like you start seeing animals around anything that's a food or beverage, like, I don't want anything to do with it. And you see him set it up, and he guts the snake, and then he pulls something out of it and drops it into Sam's shot. And you're like, I don't know if that's like a mini snake egg, if that's like the snake's heart, or it's stuff. Like, I don't know how the inside of a snake works or what he dropped in there, but it was some sort of biological form from that snake. And, even Zemo is like, it's your favorite, Smiling Tiger. Takes a shot, and Sam's like, yeah, it's my favorite. Like Fear Factor, like, shut up, and down it, and he downs it or whatever. And then this bald dude comes up and he's like, you're not welcome here, Zemo. And Zemo's like, okay. And this is where there's one of those things where it's like, I'm pretty sure he's the power broker. And this guy who comes up to him clearly recognizes him as Baron Zemo, because Zemo's like, well, I don't have any issues with the power broker. I'm more than happy to speak face to face with him. And I'm like, You're the power broker. So, like, who is he talking about? Like, it felt like there's a guy in an office upstairs in this, like, bar that, like, is overseeing everything. And he's like, and then just immediately shifts gears. He's like, or you can bring, me to Selby, might have to get this guy involved. And it's that Winter Soldier. Like, he says Winter Soldier to him. He tees him up. The tension starts running high, and he kind of, like, gives the code words to Bucky to, like, go into action. And Bucky, again, that Sebastian Stan facial acting work, man. Like, he just, just goes into that Winter Soldier mode and cleans house. I love this sequence. There's a point, man, where he hits one guy, like, under, and then I think comes down with him on the elbow. Like, he is tossing dudes all over this place because he is a super soldier. And I love, man, the choreography and, like, the double hits, like the way he'll knock a guy into the air and then knock him down or bash him into, like, the wall. You see him clear this whole place, and the dude comes back. He's like, Selby will see you now. And Zemo's like, thank you. That's what I thought you were going to say. And we kind of go in, and as we're in, Selby's office, she's like, Zemo, a lot of balls for you to come back here. What brings you to my presence? And, he is immediately like, look, I heard that there's somebody making super soldier serum. I need to find it, and if you give me the location or point me in the right direction, I'll give you this guy and all the code words that'll put him in your control. And she's immediately is like, I knew I liked you deep down, Zemo. Like, you're a smart man, and I'll help you. First and foremost, the serum is in Madripoor. And after she confirms it's in Madripoor, she's like, there's this man, Dr. Wilfred Nagel, that you're going to want to go see. He's the guy that's got it. And I can tell you where he is, but I'm not going to yet. And the cool thing, as soon as you hear the name Wilfred Nagel, I was like, that sounds familiar. And it wasn't the name I was thinking of, but ended up still being the same guy. Wilfred Nagel in the comics gets codenamed Joseph Reinstein. And Reinstein is one of the two doctors that is working to create the super soldier serum after Steve. There was one at Hydra doing it, there's one in the States doing it. And the one who was working for the States created the serum that ended up being used on Isaiah Bradley and did all the experimentation with that group. And what's cool here is, Reinstein isn't his comic book character to a T. He wasn't alive or doing doctory things when they, experimented on Bradley. But what's cool is that they kind of give Reinstein the duo of the two doctors. He was working at Hydra. When Hydra dissolved, the CIA brought him in, and then he was working to bring the serum back, utilizing samples of Isaiah's blood. But the way that he says it, he doesn't even make it sound like Isaiah is a human being, more like he's a lab rat or something like that. And you see Sam's reaction to that on his face. Like, it really hits him. And when they leave and they're on the plane going back to wherever they're going, toward the end of the episode, he's like, the way that doctor, man, he talked about, using Isaiah's blood as if Isaiah wasn't even a person. The way that eats at Sam, I love that. I think it's one of those things that, what Bucky eats at him. It's I feel like this story is going to end in a place where either Sam takes over the mantle, or whatever he does, it makes sure to uncover the history to the public that Isaiah Bradley existed, and that he was a super soldier, and that he was a Captain America. It feels like he's going to set up some sort of redemption for Isaiah Bradley, hopefully. But that story is clearly having a big impact on Sam, so I'll be interested to see how they take that moving forward. But back where Selby's talking, she's like, there's this guy, Wilfred Nagel. You're going to want to go see him. And the other thing that she confirms is that Lee was hired to create the serum by the power broker. And again, like you said, I'm pretty damn sure that Daniel Brühl is the power broker. So what is he doing wanting soldier serum recreated? But after Selby, kind of confirms all of that stuff, Sam gets a phone call. His phone starts going off. And Selby is just like, it's fine. Answer the phone and put it on speaker. And you're like, oh no. And you see the name. It says Sarah. And you're like, oh, it's his sister. This isn't going to go well. And to Sam's credit, he plays it off really well. Turns it on. Talks to her, when she mentions the bank, he's like, yeah, I be laundering money all over the place, and I'm going to kill that banker, and we're going to get what we want. And she doesn't really, he must say it to a point where, she must not hear it well, because she doesn't respond the way you'd think she would respond. But as he says, I'm going to kill that banker, you hear the kids in the background, and she yells at one of them about Cheerios, and she's like, Sam, I'm sorry, I'll have to call you back. And Selby immediately goes, Sam? Kill them. And before she can even finish saying kill them, a gunshot blasts through one of the windows and right through Selby, kills her on the spot. I took it as a sniper shot, but when we find an actual sniper who is helping them after this scene, it didn't seem like she was the one who took the shot at Selby. So I'm like, did Zemo kill Selby? I don't know who shot her, but somebody shot her. Chaos breaks out. You see, Winter Soldier take out a couple people, and him, Sam, and Zemo burst for the door, and as they're running out, there's someone else chasing. That's where you see the actual sniper take out one more person, and you hear, they stop and they kind of chill, and Zemo's like, you got a guardian angel looking out for you. And then you hear Sharon Carter come down, and she's like, what, you're supposed to be in prison, what are you doing here? And Sam is like, Sharon, chill, super soldier serum is loose, we need to find the doctor. Zemo is helping us do it. She's like, well, that makes sense as to why you guys are here and why Selby is dead. And when she says why Selby is dead, I'm like, well, she's not the one who shot Selby then. So I don't know who did it. But basically they kind of explain their situation to Sharon. Sharon's like, look, I can help you guys out. Come to my place, lay low for a little bit, we'll be fine. And when they get to her place, and it's at this point that we find out that Sharon's rolling in some dough, apparently. Like, Sam has got bank problems, and Sharon is on the run, just living the life, man. Like, clearly she went to Madripoor because there's no extradition there, so they can't take her. She knows the minute she sets foot on U.S. soil, they'll arrest her still, because she's still, like, wanted. And, in Madripoor, she, I guess, had to find a way to make money. And she found this bit where, like, she gets stolen artwork that's, like, legitimate, like Rembrandt's and like Michelangelo's. I don't even know Michelangelo painted Da Vinci. Like these real pieces of artwork. And like Sam's like, these are probably like knockoffs or whatever. And like even Zemo's like, no, these are real. Like what you see in most like museums are not the actual pieces. Like they're held someplace like this. And you find out that like clearly Sharon Carter is selling stolen, like very, very expensive, like valuable pieces of stolen artwork, and that's how she's making her money. And she's got this party that's going on. So as they're kind of all kind of regrouping or whatever, Sharon is just kind of talking about the general hypocrisy of being a hero, right? Like here I was, like, okay, technically broke the law, I stole the shield, I stole the wings, but at the end of the day, like, it was all to help the greater good, right? And, like, they welcome back in Cap and Sam because, they fix things, and, like, Thanos, but she is still on the run. And she's like, Sam, you know the hypocrisy. I mean, you gave up the shield so fast. Like, clearly, you must understand the hypocrisy of being a superhero. And, like, Sam doesn't say anything, but, like, Zemo is like, oh, yeah, no, he knows. And maybe, like, more than deep down. Like, I think he knows on the surface there's a lot of hypocrisy to being a superhero. Specifically, just with everything that's going on right now with Captain America. Like, clearly Zemo is in tune to what's going on in the world, like just because of the observations and the things that he's saying. But it was one of these moments where it's like this whole conversation of superheroes and putting them on a pedestal and what all that means. Everybody is affected by it, and everybody that's in this show has seen the negative side of like what happens when you're a superhero who is not attached to anything, and how that all just kind of fell apart when S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart for, Agent 13, a.k.a. Sharon Carter. So you have this kind of nice little back and forth with them, and then she's like, go enjoy the party. I'll do what I can to find out where this guy is. And I love this whole sequence, because it's just seeing the guys try to blend in, and Anthony Mackie, Sam does it flawlessly. He's mingling and talking to people and stuff. You see him, like, chopping it up, and you got Bucky, who's just standing by himself, like just looking anxious and looking around like he doesn't want to be here. None of this is anything that he wants to do. Like, you can tell he's like, Sharon, what is taking you so damn long? And Zemo's kind of in between the two. Like, he's just kind of doing his own thing. He's checking out this artwork almost like he's going to steal it. And then you see him like trying to dance by himself. It was awesome. It's just like a little nice second interlude that gets us to Sharon getting the information. She comes back, and that 90-second interlude clearly was hours and hours and hours long. She's like, I got the location, let's go. They round everybody up, and the next time we see them, they're at the shipping yard with all these shipping containers, and it's daytime. They partied all the way into the day, so much so Sam's like, damn, man, like, I tell you, Madripoor gave New York a run for its money. Like, you're like, they had all night long. So now they're on like no sleep or whatever after a big party, and now they're going to find this guy. So Sharon brings him up to the shipping containers, like he's in there, gives everybody earpieces. She's like, I'm gonna go keep a lookout. They go into the container's empty. Sam's like, are you sure this is the right one? Like, there's nothing in here. Zemo's in the back, and he's messing with one of the walls, finds a trigger, opens a door. And at the time, it was just like, he's probably familiar with this stuff just from the side of the world that he functions in. But when you're pretty sure that he's the power broker, he probably knows it's there because he probably helped design this whole setup for this doctor, because the power broker apparently is the one that brought this guy into Madripoor to finish the serum. So we see them go in, and they run up on Dr. Nagel, and he kind of freaks out, like, what are you doing in my lab? Get out of here. And it's like, bro, like, that would not be the first thing I'm worrying about. Like, if these guys got into your lab, they're probably not here for anything good. But he, is just trying to, like, who are you? Stay out of here. And Sam's like, look, we know you're making super soldier serum. We need to find out all the information you got on it. And if I'm not good enough, pretty sure you know this guy over here, Baron Zemo. You ever hear of him? And like the look he gives him, again, just on that second watch, like confirms, like he's the power broker. Like Nagel knows Zemo from before just now. or just by name. Like, it looked like I know you personally, and I'm going to play along with the fact that he's calling you Zemo because I'm probably scared of what you'll do since you're here, you know? And then, you know, he's like, and if that's not enough, I'm pretty sure you've heard of the Winter Soldier, right? Like, you know about this guy. And as Nagel starts to, like, kind of fall in, kind of say, all right, that's fine. Like, I'll play ball and give you what you need. You've got a bunch of people outside coming, and Sharon's like, you guys need to hurry up because there's a whole bunch of mercenaries coming. It looks like assassins. Either I'm thinking that they were either going to kill the doctor or going after Zemo. But regardless, if there are guys here, you need to hurry up, and I'll see if I can hold them off. And hold them off, she does. Emily Van Camp, like I said, man, she kicks ass in this sequence, and you get like 2 spats of them where like she is just cleaning house, and then they go back inside and they come back out and she's cleaning house again. And like, I just loved it, man. It was tight hand-to-hand combat, you know, the type of stuff where her body size, she's got to do different things against different people. So seeing her use takedowns and the way that she disarms some of the guys and then obviously uses the gun for some of the bigger guys, I just love it. It all feels real, and it feels like someone who's highly trained, that even if I'm smaller than you, you know, it's not so much that she's a woman, but just like physically some of these guys are bigger. The way that she has to attack them is different than the way, you know, Sam or Bucky would attack. And I just love that to her choreography. And like I said, I love the fact that we get to a shot at the end where it's like, oh, that is Emily Van Camp, at least doing some of this stuff. And we go back inside, and the guys are like, you know, I need all this information, right? And, you know, first it's like, where is the super soldier serum? And, you know, he's like, how much did you make? He's like, 20 vials. This Karli Morgenthau's person stole all of it. There's nothing here in the lab. We go back outside. Sharon's kicking some more ass. There's this dope move where like she takes one dude out, like ends up running around the corner of one of these containers, and a dude is chasing her. And when he does, like she's just standing there, pop, pop, waiting for him. I'm just like, everything about what she's doing is cool and smooth. And then we go back in. They're getting the last bits of information. She's like on the headset, like, guys, we need to go now. And she comes running in. And while Sam is getting all this information, Zemo's in the background. You see him feeling under a table. You're like, why is this guy just around feeling everything? And sure enough, he finds a gun. Why would you know that that's there? Unless you built this freaking place or had someone design it to install stuff of that nature. So he gets this gun, so when, you know, Sharon comes running in, they get the last piece of information, which is there's no serum here, and he just pop 2 times in the chest and then bolts. And as he runs out, there's a dude on the outside that's got a freaking rocket launcher, and rocket launches into like some of the upper containers, blows this massive hole, flips things, and eventually everybody gets out. Doctor obviously doesn't; he's dead. But you see, you know, Zemo goes and he's like running away. Like, first thing is like he gets out, and then he gets up on top of like one of the crates. We don't see him for a little while, and then we see the other 3 come out of the container, and they're kind of like gaining their bearings again, and you hear, I'm pretty sure it's Bucky go, okay, on my, like, go, and Sam just comes out and goes right to it, and they end up like taking out a couple guys or whatever, then regrouping, and you see at one point Sam goes to Sharon, he's like, you like living here? She's like, it's not this bad all the time, and, you know, like, because he wants her to come home, mostly because of probably the guilt that he feels that this is the situation that she's in. And Bucky gets over there and he's like, dude, what were you doing? Like, I was in charge of this thing. Like, you were supposed to, I thought we were going to go left. Like, I came out first, and Sam was like, well, I came out first, so it was on my lead. Like, it's in every action movie ever. I love that Sam keeps bringing up references to things that clearly have influenced this show. And he's like, it's in every action movie. Like, the first guy out is the guy you follow, or whatever. So they're, like, having their back and forth, and there are, like, 3, 4, 5 dudes coming. And you see Zemo up on top of one of the shipping containers with a gun, and just, and as he's walking up to it, he puts the mask on, and you're just like, yes, we're finally going to see it. And he's just, you get this beautiful close-up, and then they shoot to him wide, and boom, shoots this gas thing, explodes, like all these dudes, and then you see him hop down, and like does a roll off of a second container onto the ground, rolls, stands up, takes this dude out, and I'm like, yo, Baron Zemo got that hand-to-hand combat too? I need more action with Zemo. Like, I really hope that they are grooming him for like something to do in the movies, or like just someone that's gonna be in play for longer. Because like every second we spend with Zemo, I'm like, he's doing something else that I really like, man. And that getting off of the crates and right into fighting a dude was so freaking clean. And then you see him kind of dispatch with some of these guys, and the other three are kind of working their way out, and then he runs to a different container, and he takes the mask back off, and he's like almost like a jackpot type moment, and he kind of gets this smile on his face, and you're like, what is he doing? Like, what does he know? And again, he knows way too much stuff about this shipping dock to not be the power broker. Like, he knows that there is a container that's got like a vintage car in it. He gets this, and it's like, he's like he pulls up as the three need a ride. He's like, supercharged, baby. Everybody gets into the car, and Sam is still like with Sharon. He's like, come with us. Like, come back to America. She's like, the minute I set foot on soil, I'm going to go to jail. But the only reason I helped you was because of the deal that we made. And that deal was I help you if you get me pardoned. That was Sam's big in with Sharon, was like, if you help us, I'll get you pardoned. I mean, they pardoned this guy, and every person he's pretty much ever met, he killed. Like, we can get you pardoned. So she's just like, do what you said you're going to do. I'm going to chill here. And then she goes around the corner, and now I'm wondering if she's doing double agent type stuff. Like, I don't know if this is her assistant, or if it almost felt like she was still working for, like, an agency of some kind, and this was, like, a partner, where she's like, we got a couple big problems that we need to lay out or whatever. And I was like, I don't know who this woman is, and I wonder if they'll give us more of it, because it almost felt like we were saying goodbye to Sharon, but then you get this little tack on of that scene, and you're like, well, now what is she up to? And I certainly hope that we get to see some more Sharon as we move forward there. And as they all kind of get ready to go, Sam gets in the back seat, and he's like, I'm guessing you're not gonna move your seat up at all. Great callback to Civil War, where like they were kind of crammed in the back, and Sam was like, can you move your seat up like a little bit? And Bucky's just like, nah, I'm not gonna move my seat. And then we jump back to the Flag Smashers, and we go back to Karli, and she's with one of her henchmen, and they're just kind of talking back and forth, and it's like, do you ever think that we'd get here? Like type of deal. They kind of touched on that last week again. Like, this is where our lives would end up. Like, what did you want to be? And he like has like some things, but he's like, security detail in Madripoor was clearly a better option than what I ended up doing. That's how I ended up meeting you. She's like, yeah, I wanted to be a teacher. A teacher like Mama Danya, who is this woman that when they've come across this name a couple times, and this is the woman that Karli is like kind of with on that cot as what looks to be like her dying, and she's like, I want to be a teacher. And then like they kind of talk about the super soldier serum, and one of the other things that Nagel said was that he was a genius, and that when he perfected his, you wouldn't need clunky machines. It wasn't going to make people massive and big. Like, you were just going to be you, but with the super soldier abilities. And that's clearly what happened. It's what he created, because Karli and all of the people that she's with just look like regular people. They don't look like they're these jacked up super soldiers. And she talks about how like their veins were on fire when they took the serum and stuff, and you're like, it sounds like what Steve went through, but without all of the hoopla and gizmos and tech and stuff. Like, you just shoot this stuff up, and but the other thing we don't know is how many vials are left, if all of them have been used for people. But kind of just hearing them talk about it, you were like, gives you a sense that like you don't have to go through a process like Steve did. Like, this is something that can happen almost instantaneously. And I wonder if we'll see someone get the serum at some point before the show is over. But then the other thing, is the guy is like, well, now the power broker though, he's gonna be coming for us. And she's like, I just heard that Nagel is dead, and if Nagel is dead, there's no more serum. We're the only spot that has it. So I don't think she's used all of it. So she's like, he's obviously going to be coming to look for us because we have what he needs. Like, we still have the upper hand on this guy. And she just kind of talks more to, like, what they're doing. And she's like, we have to take all the power that we have and give it back to these kids that are in these camps. And like, again, you're just kind of getting more of her philosophy and what it is that she has going on. And then we jump to Walker and Hoskins, who are at the prison where Bucky and Sam were, and they're looking into the Zemo stuff, and Walker just straight up is like, these two broke him out. And Hoskins is like, we can't just say that, man. Like, we need evidence. And this is where I was saying, like, Walker is just like, yeah, we can't. So we're just going to take this, on our own. We're going to go do this our way, like, in our own sense. And Hoskins is, like, so, like, not following the government. Like, Hoskins is even on the side of, like, you, sir, are leaning more and more away from the rule book, it would seem. And again, this just kind of feels like this domino that started to kind of snowball on Walker, where it feels like he's going to be ending up... I feel like he's going to end up being a bad guy. Like, we're not going to be cool with Walker by the end of this show. But he's like, we're going to go after Sam and Bucky then on our own. And that's where, like, that video of Bucky kicking ass in Madripoor, if that gets out, that could be something that falls into the hands of Walker, and I could easily see him using that to his advantage. Then we jump to Zemo's plane. They're flying back to the States, and you hear Sam on the phone, and we get to hear a little, Torres on the phone, and he's like, I need you to look up this refugee, Doña Madani, who is Mama Doña that you keep hearing Karli mention. Clearly she's got something to do with the Flag Smashers and what's going on, so they want to find her. And Torres is like, yep, no problem. And by the time you're like at the end of this scene, Torres calls back and like confirms that Doña Madani died, and then you find out that it was from tuberculosis, which I think Zemo says is like a common thing for these camps that are overcrowded. Like, a lot of people get tuberculosis and they die. And that, again, kind of just plays into what's going on with Karli and, like, the fact that, like, the GRC has caused all of this stuff, and if Mama Doña is her actual mom or just someone who, raised her or was a role model, like, she ends up with a thing that's happening pretty commonly to people who are in these overcrowded communities, like, of displaced people. You can get where she's coming from. But, like, after that, like, you have, just Sam is just kind of chilling, when he gets off the phone with Torres, and Buck is like, are you all right? And Sam's like, yeah, man, I'm thinking about everything that, like, Sharon has gone through, and, like, Nagel just talking about, like, utilizing these samples as if, like, Isaiah wasn't even a person, and I'm just wondering, like, how many people have to get steamrolled to make way for this hunk of metal? Like, maybe I should have destroyed, and Bucky is like, well, that hunk of metal means something to some people, and he's like, like, that hunk of metal saved a lot of lives, and Sam's like, maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe you're right. I shouldn't have given it to a museum. Maybe I should have destroyed it. And this is a moment that I like, my ears perked up, because Bucky, like, almost kind of hinted at the fact that, like, he's gonna take on the mantle one way or another, because he's like, you know what, that shield means a lot to people, and it means a lot to me, and I'm gonna go take it back from Walker before you can destroy it. So I was like, Bucky planning on being Captain America no matter what anybody says? Like, I kind of like that. Like, you know what, if you're not gonna do it, Sam, I'll freaking step up and do it, because this John Walker guy should not be Captain America. And then we jump to the Flag Smashers, who are stealing supplies from another spot. They're raiding this warehouse. They're loading up all these supplies. And then Karli and the dude that she was talking to earlier get into a car, and she's like, put on your safety belt. And, like, he's like, what? She's like, buckle. And as she's saying, this car next to this warehouse explodes, and then the entire interior of the warehouse explodes as well. And it's one of those, like, she was telling him to put the safety belt on because that was going to happen. He puts that together, and he's like, there's still people in that building. Like, the guards were in there. We saw her, like, talk to one of them. They were definitely innocent people that they just had tied up. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, this is the only thing that those people understand. The GRC and the people that are doing all the things they're doing. The only language that they talk is the killing of innocents. Like, and again, if Madonna or Mama Doña and that other guy, like, are personally tied to her and they're dead because of things that they're doing or things that the GRC isn't doing, like, you can, again, empathize with her, but now she's taking it to that radical state. And you've gotten to this point now with Karli Morgenthau where it's like, I'm okay killing innocent people to get what we have to get done. And that in and of itself is just a really interesting conversation where you see a lot of these terrorist networks or groups have kind of like mantras or ideas that on paper you're like, I can sort of understand that, until they take it over the line and start, killing innocent people, and using that fear tactic to be what drives them. And you're literally watching the Flag Smashers become legitimate terrorists in the show, which is just really, really cool. And then Zemo is basically like, after they found everything out, he apologizes for killing the doctor. He's like, I won't do anything like that anymore. I have a place I need to take us. and they're walking down the streets, and he's just talking about Sokovia and how like the neighboring countries just came in and cannibalized it and literally wiped it off the map. And here it is, like, history being erased, very similar to stuff that Sam is going through. By the time you get to the end of the episode, it's Sam and Zemo that are going into this building together because Bucky breaks off. But, like, you again can just see the way that Zemo is laying things in that are facts or truths that are helping him manipulate these two guys. And at what point do they stop it, And I hope it at least is for another episode or two so that we get Zemo the rest of the run, because I'm really loving what Daniel Brühl is doing. And as they kind of get where they're going, it seems like, okay, this is where we need to go. Bucky's like, I'm going to just go take a walk. And Sam again is like, you good, man? Like, I know, like, you did some stuff. Like, you're cool. And Sam's like, yeah, I'm fine. I just need to walk. I'll catch up with you guys. And you see Sam and Zemo go off into this room, and Bucky starts retracing their steps, and you see him pick up like this little metal ball, and it's making these like electronic sciencey sounds coming from it, and he comes up, he finds another one, and he turns the corner, and he just goes, you dropped something. And then like he's looking one way, and he looks, and then he comes back, and then it's like he can tell that there's someone there, and he turns, and who's there but Io? I'm not that good. I had to do a little research, but it is one of the Dora Milaje from the Black Panther movie. It is Okoye's number 2. Ao is always at her side. Like if you go through pictures of the Dora Milaje, or when you watch that movie, she is one of the like 2 Dora Milaje that are always with Okoye. So I love using someone that we've seen in the movies before, and that of course is Florence Kasumba, and she is there for one thing and one thing only. And when she turns and he's like, I was wondering when you were going to show up. She's like, I showed up for Zemo. And you're like, oh snap, that's right. He killed King T'Chaka, which I think Sam brings up earlier in the episode. Like they mentioned that, like why you don't break Zemo out. Like he killed like the king of Wakanda. Wakanda hasn't forgotten that. Now you get to the end of the episode, and Wakanda hasn't forgotten about Baron Zemo, and you've got one of the Dora Milaje here ready to take him down. I'm like, of course, that's where we would end the episode. But this one, like I said, way more satisfying. It ran closer to 50 minutes and did everything, right? Like, we had this mission. We had to find the super soldier serum and who made it. We found out who made it. We found out some other things. And now we're set up for that next thing. And I can't wait to see what happens here. Like, are we going to go back to Wakanda at any point? And clearly Wakanda, the tie to Wakanda is something really strong for Bucky's character. How much of Io are we gonna get? Is she gonna run around and help? Is Bucky gonna be able to talk her out of taking Zemo, maybe until they're done with him? Does she come into play? Maybe we see other Dora Milaje? Does Okoye show up? I don't know. But just seeing one of the Dora Milaje show up and being one that we are familiar with or have seen at least in the movies, I was like, I am excited. I can't wait for next week. And that's all I've got to say about this episode. Woo! That was a long spoiler review. But like I said, there was a lot of stuff that went down in this episode. And just a lot of stuff that is setting up our story, moving it forward. And like I said, just give me all the Daniel Brühl. This dude is so freaking good. And like how they're using Zemo, I am fascinated with. Like, I can't wait to see how whatever his storyline plays out in full. But it's one of the reasons I wanted him last week, man, because I want to start getting that feeling of like, ooh, what are we getting with Zemo? And what we're getting so far is really good. And like I said, I like what they're building with Sam and Bucky. I like that we have, Sharon Carter in on this and in it in a way where there's some mystery to her character too that I want to go back to and hopefully dive into some more. But they're setting up just a lot of cool stuff in this episode around Madripoor and around what the main function of the story is going to be. And Power Broker, the title of the episode, clearly has got to be Baron Zemo. At least where I'm sitting, that's what I'm getting. So those are all my spoiler-filled thoughts. I really dug this episode. It did everything that I've been looking for the show to do, and I hope that it continues to do so through the next 3 episodes, and we should be on a pretty wild ride to the end. So I'm pumped. I love this episode. Now I want to know what you're thinking, man. What did you think of episode 3, Power Broker? What did you think of Daniel Brühl? What did you think of Zemo? What was your favorite Zemo moment? Like I said, just watching him manipulate the guys is just so much fun to watch Daniel Brühl do on screen. What did you think of what was going on with Sam and Bucky this week? Did you like the Winter Soldier action? Did you like the Sharon Carter action? everything that's going on, man. What do you think about the Dora Milaje? Good, bad, indifferent on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 3, Power Broker, down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man anytime. We're talking the Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Friday mornings, or just movies, TV, trailer reactions. Like I said, I'm going to check out Godzilla vs. Kong. You want to be here to see that review or conversation. You haven't yet, you want to show a little love support to the old C-Man? Jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button. Come join C-Maniac Nation. Hit that little bell if you want those alerts. Until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man, and I'm signing off. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you haven't, you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.